Hey, happy Tuesday, besties and bosses. How y'all doing? How is summer treating you? If you live in the part of the world where it's summer, I know we've got opposite seasons for those of you who are on the Aussie side of things. It's funny, it's been so mercurial here. We had 90-degree weather last week, and this weekend it actually was like almost sweater weather, which I personally love. It was like in the 60s. Today it's kind of gray again. I was hoping we would have a little bit more light when we went live, but that's what we've got today. But I've got my fun summer flowers for us to kind of bring in that today. And we're going to talk some good mindset stuff today. We're going to talk about the surprising money leak in your business and with your money. Before we do a couple announcements, I always want to make sure I announce these up front. We're still offering, this will be evergreen, but we're still actively offering the free 5-day podcast series, the Too Much series, Be Too Much and Make Too Much Noise, Income, and Impact. And it is really great. It's a 5-day podcast series. You get instant access. We also have a bonus playbook that has journaling prompts to put all of those questions, the unapologetic questions from the podcast, into action. And there's also some affirmations in there. So I'll make sure we drop a link to that. It is one of my favorite things that we created. And I actually created that before I got married last year. So kind of a fun thing there. And it walks you through the clarity, mindset, strategy, and action of really getting out of your own way, taking up more space so you can make more money. And it's a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. Through a different lens, in each episode of that series is going to give you a new question to really think about, to help you unapologetically answer that for yourself to get those results. So I'll make sure we drop a link to that. I'm trying to think if I had any other announcements. I feel like that was probably the main announcement there. Okay, so let's dive in today and chat a little bit about money and the surprising money leak in your business. So this is actually a topic I've been wanting to talk about for a while because I see it come up so often with clients, and I think it's also a really good illustration for us around. Oh, this is the other thing I did want to share. We're doing a giveaway. We always do a giveaway. That was the other piece I had. Say hi if you're live now, or if you're live later, say hello, leave a comment, leave an emoji. We are doing a giveaway. I am doing a giveaway to my self-study course, Get Unstuck and Unlock Your Success. It walks you through 5 of the most common mindset blocks I see come up for entrepreneurs, creatives, and coaches. There's actually a bonus one in there for you, and then just some simple journaling prompts and tools to help you get unstuck so you can unlock that next level of success in your business. Mindset, I always say, is 90% of what goes into making more money on your terms. Of course, we need the strategy, action, and clarity as well, but that's a big piece of it. So we're giving away one of those today. We'll pick winners on Thursday, so whether you're watching now or on the replay, just say hi, leave a comment, and we will make sure we get that to you. We always reach out through the DMs for that. Okay, I knew I had one more thing. I always forget to mention that. So going back to today's topic, one of the reasons I want to bring this today is, yes, this comes up for clients a lot and it's something I see a lot in terms of what can block money in your business. But I think it's also a really good illustration of understanding mindset work a little bit more and understanding the impact of mindset on your business. I think sometimes when we hear mindset work, or when we hear mindset as a component of what allows you to make more money, or kind of like what's the mindset that's keeping you from making money, I mean, you'll have to tell me what comes up for you. But I think so often we think then it's really just affirmations, or, well, if I believe I'm a millionaire, then I'll be a millionaire, or mindset work is just like chanting you're going to be a millionaire all the time. And well, look, I love me some affirmations. I use affirmations in my own mindset work. I'm all for those. There is a time and place for those. I think what we sometimes miss and don't understand is a lot of the mindset work goes a lot deeper, and it's really like, what are the thoughts that are driving our actions? What are the thoughts, the belief systems we have, the constructs we're running our business through that we're not even maybe aware of because they're so familiar to us? How are these showing up and impacting our business? How are these showing up and impacting our money, the money we're allowing ourselves to receive or not receive? Really digging in and seeing what is that thought pattern, and really starting to question and shift and rearrange and delete and change. That's really when I think of mindset work. And when I talk about mindset being such a big component to the results you get in your business, yes, affirmations are powerful, but I think just starting to understand it's not simply plastering affirmations on top of things. A lot of times it goes a lot deeper. And when I'm talking to my clients, a lot of the times maybe we're talking about business or we're talking about money, but we're unpacking layers underneath the surface as to often, things that happened decades ago that are impacting the way they're thinking about money in their business, or thinking about selling or showing up in their business. And so that's what we're going to talk through today. One of the surprising leaks you're going to see, because I think so often when we're not getting the results in business we want, or when it feels really sticky and hard to make money, or when it feels like, gosh, you're working harder than everyone else and making less than everyone else, or when it feels like you're always feeling like you have to over deliver and just like push, push, push. Or maybe you feel like you're always constantly chasing people for invoices and payments, right? It's easy for us to get stuck on the surface and think, well, this must just be a strategy thing, or there's something wrong with me, or it's a business thing, and not that there isn't a practical element to that. I am equally on the strategy side, like team strategy, team practical strategy and action and implementation, 100%. But what we so often don't realize is often there's a mindset component underneath the surface that's driving our actions, that creates those results that are showing up for us. Hey, Krista, nice to have you here. For some reason, it's showing me or telling me that you're live. It's funny how sometimes it tells me that. Sometimes it tells me who's here, and sometimes it does not tell me who's here. So it told me you were here. So hello and nice to see you. So hopefully that makes sense. And that's one of the reasons, I always want to bring the things I'm noticing through clients and bring as much as I can to the table here, so this can serve all of you in your business and allow you to be able to make more money on your terms in a way that feels good, but also just so you can start to see the difference when we're talking about mindset, just so you can see some of what we're gonna be talking about today. I think this might help you have a different understanding when you're looking at your own thoughts, when you're looking at your own business, when you're doing your own mindset work, maybe when you're self-coaching, or if you're coaching others, seeing how can you go a layer past simply feeling like mindset work is always simply plastering those affirmations on and looking at some of these pieces. Thank you for the hi. So Kristen, you can throw a guess out at me, but I wonder, you are like on the replay, everyone watching, I wonder if you have a guess for what that surprising leak, the money mindset leak might be in your business. And I'm always very mindful here. I'm teasing it out a little bit, and then I'm going to share this and we're going to dive into it. I'm going to unpack what it is. We're going to talk a little bit about where it comes from, because I think it's not always what it sounds like. We're going to talk about how this affects your business, and then I'm going to close with just some really practical tools you can use to self-coach yourself to start to shift this mindset. And I want to be very, very mindful before I share what this is. When I talk about mindset blocks or money mindset, first of all, I don't believe in blocks in the traditional sense. I think that becomes a very limiting story, and then we think we have blocks we need to clear. It's just simply thoughts. We all have thoughts. We have thought patterns, and I think sometimes our thoughts can block our flow, make it harder for us to show up and get results. But I want to make sure we're not creating that. That just becomes extra noise, and then we think there's something wrong with us. And when it comes to money mindset, as we're talking through this here, I hope what you start to see is it's not like we simply have a money mindset, like I'm available to make $1 million and it's just about money. What I want to hopefully impart here, and what I'm hoping you'll take away from this, is seeing your mindset about money is your mindset, period. Money tends to be, in your business, tend to be a lens for us to see what's going on in the mind, and tend to be a reflection in terms of what's going on for us with our thought process, with us energetically. And it's not like we have a separate mindset for money and a separate mindset for business and a separate mindset for relationships. Generally speaking, your mindset is your mindset, and what's coming up for you as a human is going to then just show up in different areas. Money just happens to be something most of us in this group care about, so it's a great place to look at. But I want to say that because sometimes I think we can think of money mindset as only talking about money, and you're going to see today some of this has nothing to do with money at all. So since I'm many guesses, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. That's how that saying goes. So one of the surprising money leaks I see, and this is something I see through so many of my clients, and I have a feeling in this group, because it's such a heart-centered caring group, is probably really prevalent, is, believe it or not, is people-pleasing and over-giving, and how that then bleeds into business, kind of what the thought pattern is underneath that causes that, and then how that really affects your money. And again, I'm gonna talk about where this comes from, and I'm gonna talk about some really specific, practical, strategic places you can see this pop up. So we can just, not to put labels on things, so you can just see like, is this showing up for me? And then we'll talk about how to shift this a little bit. But I really see people pleasing, over giving as one. It is such a big block that causes people to under earn. It causes people to exert more than they need to create results. I find this is a place where people shrink back, they hide in plain sight. It really is again, it doesn't sound related to money, but we're gonna unpack. It really is something I see block the flow and the capacity for people to earn, and really limit that capacity. I'm a recovering people pleaser, so if you're hearing this and you feel like you're being called out anyway, I wanna say, we're gonna talk about where this comes from, just to normalize. This isn't a bad thing. This isn't like, oh my gosh, if you have this means you're never gonna make money. I make great money in my business. And this is something I continue to work through and shift. Just like I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? Perfectionism, I think, gets such a bad rap, and that is something I will probably always be in recovery. If anyone knows the AA world, right, we're always in recovery. So I say that just to normalize. These are normal things. All of us humans have things that come up, but we want to start to notice how they're coming up and how they're affecting our business, how they're affecting our money. Otherwise, it's really hard to get out of our own way. That awareness, I always say awareness is 80% of changing the game. So I think if we can unpack people pleasing for a moment, and then we'll talk about how it shows up in the business. But just understanding people pleasing because I think the concept can be a little confusing. I think sometimes we hear people pleasing and think that just means like wanting to be a nice person, wanting to be really kind, hoping that people are happy. And I think our brain can almost go to thinking, well, like, I don't know, isn't that the point of business? We're in service-based businesses. Don't we want people to be happy? What's wrong with that? Why would that block my income? Isn't that kind of the whole point if we're service-based, service-driven, if we are heart-led? And I want to say yes, and people-pleasing takes it to another degree. So when we're looking at something like people-pleasing and overgiving, we're really looking at where we are starting to, it's really having a lack of boundaries or not holding boundaries as well, and really starting to look at how you're interacting with the world around you and wanting to please, overgive, wanting to almost let down your own boundaries to give at the expense of, you're pleasing other people at the expense of yourself. And oftentimes this comes from a place, a couple core places. One, I think for many of my clients, this comes from just a lack of self-worth or a lack of intrinsic value. And this belief that the more I can please, the more I can overgive, the more I can do, the more I can hopefully get approval, love, acceptance. The more I can hear these things back, then finally I can feel like I'm good enough, I'm worthy enough, I have enough value, right? I think that logically makes sense. And so we can people please, we can overgive, and it comes really from, instead of from a neutral service-based place in business where we're giving as a part of an energy exchange where we want to be of service, and we're also receiving something that is in a contractual agreement for, monetary energy exchange, or in personal relationships where there's that even energy exchange and we're holding boundaries. And it really is coming from this full place of, I already love myself, I already feel enough, I'm doing this because it feels good and it's within my boundaries. When what we're looking at here is when it's more almost coming from this depleted place, and it's this action that is generated from, I'm really hoping that if I take this people-pleasing action, if I overgive, if I over-deliver, if I don't hold these boundaries, I'm going to get what I want in return. I'm going to finally feel good enough. So hopefully that makes sense. I think another place, obviously this can come from many, many places. I think this can be learned. I think we can also, if we grew up in families where we watch someone else have this behavior, or in families where maybe there's a bit of that drama triangle where there's, not to get too far down a rabbit hole, but there's the drama triangle, which has the persecutor, the rescuer, the victim. Some of you might have learned about that. I think anywhere where there's some of that enmeshment or codependency, and not to put labels on things, but I think when we can see a little bit of that dysfunction in, and not to call families dysfunctional, but just to see where there's a little bit of that dysfunction in terms of the communication, sometimes we can also learn either by watching someone else, or as a way to function as a part of the family unit, or as a part of the way to be accepted, people pleasing, over giving, over delivering. This can be a part of how we have either witnessed and then mimicked, as a way to be, or as a way we've learned to kind of fit in and be a part of the unit. And then with that, I think another really common place or way this comes from, and this is just where, just to create some awareness, this isn't to have everyone open up wounds and just dig to the bottom of the barrel, but just so you can start to give yourself some grace, but also maybe notice and see oh, is this a pattern I have that's maybe affecting me in business? I find for many of my clients who've had trauma in their past, whether it's trauma with a capital T or trauma with a lowercase t, I think anything that can, this can be one of the responses, a trauma response, as a way that they have learned to create safety, to create, again, love and acceptance. And it makes sense if we've been in an environment or had an experience where maybe the traumatic experience had you in a place that felt very not safe, or very unsafe is probably a better way to say it. And this could look like so many different things. Some people, we all learn different responses, right? Our brain is really quick. Our brain is very adapted. Our brain is wired for survival. Oftentimes, one of the things it can learn is, hey, if I overgive, if I people please, if I kind of perform here, if I do the thing, if I don't hold my boundary, but I do this thing, then I can feel this person isn't going to yell at me. This person isn't going to get mad at me. This person isn't going to fly off the handle. This person isn't going to drink. Whatever that thing might be, right? I can feel like I'm controlling the situation around me through my kindness, through my people pleasing. Right? It's a way to try to control, not from I don't think there's any negative ill intention, but I think it come from a place of my brain has learned I can create a false sense of safety. This is a way I try to create some safety around me. And so again, I bring this up just so you can start to notice where it's like, oh, interesting, this might be a pattern, this might be a mindset of mine, this might be something of mine. I can also then just see a little bit of where it's coming from, because then you also start to understand some of the deeper layers, opportunities of the mindset work to dig into and to identify. So hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to highlight that a little bit before we talked into how it shows up into business. Also, I feel like I should get paid by Spindrift, because I feel like I have been shouting this out like on everything. The grapefruit, I think I put this in my email this week. The grapefruit Spindrift, I just discovered it. It is so delightful and happy making. Did I have this last week? I might have had this last week and said the same thing. It's like the most happy making thing. Anyway, side tangent, I'm a little bit of a squirrel there. So again, I wanna, just so we can see like what we're talking about, what this mindset is, so we can understand where this might be coming from, and also how this might be showing up. Because when we're looking at something like people pleasing, I think this is one of those things that, again, it can just seem like, oh, I'm a people pleaser. Oh, okay, I overgive a little bit. Oh, I don't hold boundaries as well. Oh, I like want people to be happy. I'm super nice. And we can think it's almost a very benign thing. And what I want you to see is usually there's a lot of layers underneath it, which is important to notice, because then we're seeing, oh, maybe I have a coping strategy that isn't serving me. And I want us to connect to, and how is this affecting you in business and your income and your impact? So I'm just gonna go through a couple of these like really common ways I notice this in clients, so you can start to just kind of go through like, oh, is this affecting my money? Is this affecting my ability to make money? If so, super great awareness. Don't make yourself wrong, just super great awareness. So for like, I think one of the easiest places I notice this, and one of the easiest places or like common ways I see this mess with someone's business and income really is simply through those boundaries they're holding with clients, right? And it's kind of what we were talking about with the overgiving. It's this want where it's like, I feel like I have to say yes to everything a client asks of me, even if that doesn't feel good, even if that's not a part of my contract. I need to over deliver. I need to please this person past what we have agreed to in this contract. And what we see over time is this is when people start to get burnt out. This is when people don't understand why they're not able to scale their business or make more income, because they're just working all the time, or they're working 10 times more than other people they know and making far less. Oftentimes it's coming from this people pleasing want to create safety in their business, because there's a little bit of that story of like, the only way I can keep a client happy is by doing more than I said I would. Look, I'm all for under promise, over deliver, but I think there's a really big difference between under promise, over deliver, or surprise and delight your clients, which is an excellent thing to do in business, or like showing up because it feels really great and you want to just offer a client something above and beyond. That is very different than I don't hold boundaries. I don't hold to the boundaries that feel really important to me as a service provider, as a business owner, because I really want to please this person at the expense of pleasing myself, because that feels safer, because I'm so worried that otherwise my offer isn't worth enough, or because I'm so worried that if I don't, someone isn't gonna like me, or I will piss someone off, or one of my clients will go away, right? Those are two very different things. And so on the surface, I talk about this so often, on the surface, the actions might look exactly the same, but it's what's driving that can make all the difference to your money. Because if you're surprising and delighting and what looks like over delivering from a place of this feels really great, this feels really juicy, I love doing this right now, that can actually lead to more income and someone wanting to hire you again and feeling really great and receptive to making more money. If that's coming from a place of, this is not my boundary, I'm not holding my boundary, what I really wanted to do is say no, or push a deadline on this, or tell someone I'm not capable of that, and I feel like I'm being depleted through this, or I feel like I'm being taken advantage of, or I feel like I'm not being heard, or fill in the blank there, right? That's going to lead to feelings of burnout or overwhelm, or feeling like you're not being paid enough, or resentment. And this is something that will start to show up in your business. It's going to affect the way you're serving a client, but this is also when we then subconsciously want to push clients away, or we are expending, right? We're literally costing my guess is if you're the owner of your business, you're the most valuable asset in your business, we start to expend more energy and cost our business a lot of money because we are doing more than we need to for the monetary exchange we've agreed upon, not because it feels good, but because we feel like we have to or else. So that's probably one of the biggest places I see it. And I know this is one of those topics where it's like, this is probably not something everyone wants to like chime in on, but let me know, like, I think as you're listening to these, let me know if you've ever experienced that, if this has ever shown up for you as a way to help normalize this for other people. Because again, what I don't want us to do is demonize people pleasing or demonize this, or to make anyone feel wrong, or to feel like, oh my gosh, this comes up for me, like now I need to be in shame city, as opposed to, I think this is something that it is probably one of the most common things I support clients with. And so I think we can just normalize this, but also see, oh, if this is super common, if this is coming up for me, what an opportunity for me to start to notice this. Because if I can notice it, the more I can notice and shift and rearrange this and move past this, the more opportunities I open up in my business for more money, for more income, for more clients, for more ease, for less resentment, for less burnout, right? For all of the things we want. So I think just starting to notice that, but also being really mindful not to make yourself wrong here. I made a whole list of places this shows up. So I wanted to go through a couple other places. So a really big place I see this, and I think this is where we can like directly see the tie-in to the money you're making in your business, when we're operating from that people-pleasing place where it's like, I really need people to like me, and I need to like overgive or people please is a way where it's like, I don't want to ruffle feathers. I don't like, it doesn't feel safe. I'm like worried I'm gonna lose a client. I'm worried someone's gonna be upset at me. I'm worried someone's gonna be mad. Whatever the mindset trash is there, what I see is that can be directly linked to undercharging, right? And starting to charge less, or do that sneaky thing where you have the price point. You're like, this is the price for my offer. This is what feels really good for me to receive for my work. And as soon as you hear an objection, or as soon as someone can't afford it, instead of leaning into that conversation, wanting to people please, right? Pricing is a boundary. I talk about that so often. Your price point, your offers, your containers, those are all boundaries. Wanting to bend on your boundaries, bend over backwards. And I think this is when we can see, I lovingly was giving a client about this, a little bit of a hard time about this last week, where it's like, well, let me just change the prices and try to please someone with the price I think is going to make them happy, that they're going to say yes to. Let me just bend my boundaries here. Let me just try to throw more things into this offer, as opposed to what I've already decided. Let me just keep lowering my offer, not as a strategic decision, not as something that makes sense, that matches my offer, but because I so badly want to please. I so badly am scared that I'm not like good enough, or that I'm not worthy enough, and I like need this approval, right? Like, it's just a bending of boundaries and coming from that place. So I think that is another one of the more common places. And again, if you notice this, I think it's just an opportunity to be like, oh, well, if that's coming up for me, that's fine. Let me do the mindset work around what's coming up around the people pleasing, where this is coming from, some of the stuff we talked about at the beginning of the live stream, so that I can start to shift this. But probably what I don't want to do then is see this as a reason to change my prices, or to drop my price point, or to navigate an objection by lowering my prices, right? I think this is just where we get to see like, oh, fascinating. This is how this mindset might be sabotaging the income and what I'm charging. Let me go handle mindset over here. Let me not touch my business over here. This is my business, and my strategy is not the place I'm going to solve my mindset stuff through. So hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if you have questions as I'm going through this. So kind of with this, with the people pleasing in particular, I think I think this is probably what I put in the email I sent. I think another big place this can show up with, and this is another boundary that I think we forget as a boundary, which is enforcing that you have payments and invoices and following up with those to receive those. I think when there's that people pleasing tendency, and especially when it's coming from that place of, this is the way I create safety, right? I have learned, for whether it's a trauma response, or because I watched this growing up, or I got positive reinforcement this way, for whatever reason, I have learned that when I people please, when I don't hold my boundaries, I create a sense of safety, because people don't get mad at me, people don't yell at me, there isn't conflict, right? Whenever we have that kind of underneath, and that's where the people pleasing is coming from, I see them when a client is defaulting on a payment, or a client is late on a payment, or we need to hold the boundary around the price point, or follow up with someone to collect a payment. I find this can be a big place that people pleasing wants to come in, where it's like, well, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to upset someone. And I've literally had clients where we have had to do the work around this so that they can follow up. And it's been, thousands to tens of thousands of dollars, that are being left on the table, not because they can't make money or they don't know how to sell or they don't have a good offer or their business strategy isn't working, but because there is this want not to ruffle feathers, not to want to piss someone off, where they're continuing to serve and not getting paid for that work. So I think that one's pretty self-explanatory, but again, just a place to notice, like, oh, is people pleasing affecting me and causing me to not want to hold this boundary and force my payments? I think with this one, I put here making weird offers and payment plans, but I think that's exactly what we were just talking about earlier, where it's at that place of wanting to bend with your payments and your offers, as opposed to being really clear what your offer is. Look, there's lots of reasons. I mean, I think sometimes that can come from other insecurities or other places of a lack of clarity, but I think also, and I see this through clients, when there is that want to people please and not have someone upset with you and really have someone like you. And it's almost that mindset of like wanting people to get the yes from people no matter what, and to kind of like almost feel like you need to be a chameleon to be able to get that yes. I think that's when we see suddenly it's like shape-shifting offers. And I think this is super normal at the start of business for a lot of people. And just notice and see like, wait, am I being a chameleon in my business? Do I have shape-shifting offers? If so, what might be happening is I might be having a bit of a people-pleasing pattern show up in my business. What would happen if I leaned into really getting clear on my offer and selling that offer and helping someone understand why to buy this offer, instead of playing shape-shifting offers and trying to be a chameleon and try to like figure out, like, it's almost like playing that game of like, what will someone say yes to? Like, how can I get them to like this offer enough? It's another place that shows up. Another place if I say people pleasing too many more times, I'm gonna have that thing when you say like watermelon 100 times and it sounds so funny out of your mouth. That's what's happening a little bit right now. But another place I see this really affect the become a money leak in your business, and I think this one is really sneaky, especially for those of you who bill who are what's the word I'm looking for? Done for you service providers who bill per your time or per your hour, is really over delivering and not charging for the time you work, or like forgetting to send the invoice, or not like calculating that properly, or if someone is going over the scope of work, right? Scope creep is a real thing. I have many clients who are designers. I have some clients who are OBMs and in that space. Scope creep is such a normal thing, and scope creep and not charging for that and not communicating that scope creep, right? That is a boundary breach, right? That's not setting and holding a boundary. And oftentimes, I mean, that can come from many places, but oftentimes I see when we're not holding that boundary around the scope creep, when we're not charging for that scope creep, when we're not speaking up and advocating to be paid for that scope creep and that additional work or those additional hours, a lot of times that's coming from that mindset of people pleasing and kind of whatever the narrative is and what we're making that mean under that, right? So for example, I have one client who like worries that if she lets people know that the work is getting past what they agreed upon and past the original container, that it's one of two things, right? Either that she's not doing a good enough job, because if she were doing a good enough job, if she were good enough, then she would be able to get it done in the allotted time, even though the project has expanded past what was originally agreed upon. Or that they're going to be mad or upset or frustrated at the invoice, disappointed, whatever that is, and not want to pay her, and she's going to lose a client. And we can see, like, I think this is just such a great example. When we have those things coming up, that can be a huge energy leak in your business on two fronts, right? Because on the one front, this can often mean you're not charging appropriately. You're not holding that boundary around your prices and charging for your time or charging for your work and communicating that. Right? So that's literally costs you money in the present. But over time, this also creates a whole pattern of either overworking, right? So she's working for free, so this adds up over time, but also creating this narrative of, oh my gosh, it's so heavy to work with a client. I never get paid well. Like all of these feelings that can cause resentment, which have us subconsciously start to do this thing where it's a little bit of this, where it's like, I want a client, I want to make money, but also I kind of don't, because, it's going to be so heavy. It's going to be so much work. I always over deliver. I never get paid. Like all of my projects go over. No one ever pays me appropriately. When that starts to become the meaning you have with your clients, because those boundaries aren't being held, because there's a fear that it's not going to be safe or someone's not going to like you if you hold that boundary, right, from the people-pleasing place, what happens is subconsciously we are telling our brain we don't really want clients, we don't really want more money. And so I think on the surface it can seem like, oh, like, is that really such an energy leak in the business? But I think we can start to see it's an energy leak in present time that adds up and compounds over time, right? If every project of yours goes over, like, this is like poor math, but let's just say you charge $100 an hour and every project of yours goes over 5 hours. That's $500 per project. Let's just say you only did one project a year, a month, right? $500 times 12, do the math on that. That's if you only had one project that only went over 5 hours and you only had one project a month. You can do the math and see in the immediate how much that costs you. And we have to also start to think, if you're going over that much and not being paid for it, that's also time you can't spend on your marketing or paying your team to do your marketing. Like, we start to see how it's not just the money you're not being paid for, but how that starts to ripple out. And then if we look at you being burnt out or resentful and not wanting to book in clients because they feel heavy or feeling like, oh my gosh, I have the wrong offer, I better change my whole offer, my whole marketing strategy, everything, because I never get paid well, we can start to see how this seemingly small pattern, this seemingly small mindset, this seemingly small place you're not holding a boundary, how this can start to really be a massive money leak and energy leak in your business. Hopefully that makes sense. I need more Spindrift. I'm just looking at the time. Okay, we got time for another couple others. Let's talk about how this shows up, how this becomes a money leak in your marketing. So when you are people pleasing, one of the places I see this show up in marketing, well, lots of places, but let's talk through like 2 common ones that come up for me. One is in your content. When you're people pleasing, what do we tend to do, right? We try to figure out, it's the chameleon mindset, right? We have chameleon offers where we're like shape-shifting offers. I find this happen in content too. When there's that people pleasing tendency, for all the reasons we talked about, right? Like, that's when we create vanilla content. That's when we're like, what do people want to hear from me? Let me try to figure that out. Not through the marketing lens of what challenges do my people have, let me address that, but really trying to figure out what's the safe content to create. How can I please people through my content? How can I be super safe and vanilla in my content, which might be people pleasing. It might not ruffle any feathers. It might make you feel safe. It might make you feel accepted. It might be like what you're hearing from 10 other people. So it just feels a lot more comfortable. But the challenge is, if we think about the whole point of marketing is to connect with your people. If we think about really great marketing, both attracts and repels, right? Just like if we're in relationships, really like, and we're out dating, ideally we're going to either really be attracted to someone or repel someone, not from like a, well, I don't like you place, but like, that's the whole thing with chemistry, right? We want the same thing in our marketing, right? I'm hoping if you're listening to this might not be a topic that's for everyone, but if you're listening to this, whether it's now or on the replay, it's because this is something I'm attracting you towards me with my content, because this is something you really want to hear about. This is something specific to you that's going to really matter to you. And I'm hoping that this also repels a bunch of people who are like, ugh, mindset, like, I don't believe in mindset work, or I don't even think this is a thing, or this doesn't, speak to me at all. That is actually the goal, right? Having enough of an opinion, not being, I love me some vanilla ice cream, but outside of vanilla ice cream, that's not really what we want to bring to our content and our marketing. We want to have enough of an opinion, enough of a viewpoint, enough of a perspective. We want to come from our solution, our answer, our viewpoint, our thought leadership, and attract and repel, but really do so from the place of, I have enough intrinsic self-worth. I have enough belief in my thought leadership, in my content, in my ideas. I have enough safety in myself and in my business that I can show up and deliver what I want, as opposed to, it doesn't feel safe because someone might be mad at me to share this. I don't know if this is the right thing to share because someone might think this is wrong, or someone might yell at me on the internet, or someone's not going to like it, or I'm going to turn clients away. All the different narratives that can come up, which are super normal and human, but I think just noticing how then if the coping mechanism in your particular brain is to try to solve that discomfort through people pleasing, right? We have lots of ways to solve that discomfort. Hiding in plain sight is another one. I do think people pleasing can be a form of hiding in plain sight, but I think just noticing, oh, isn't that interesting? I might be going through the motions in my business of putting out content, of sharing the things, of doing the things. But I might be hiding in plain sight. I might be coming at this through the lens of people pleasing, of kind of shape shifting, chameleoning my content. And if I'm doing so, I'm probably creating a huge money leak in my business because this is not going to connect as much with my people. This is going to make it harder for my people to know what I'm about, for me to attract in the very people who want to pay me money for the work I do. Similarly, I think with people pleasing, right? The same thing can happen with owning your work, owning your results. Follow-ups, gosh, we could do a whole live stream. I've probably done live streams, I think, on follow-ups in the past, but I think just understanding the mindset crap that can come up around following up. I think follow-ups are, I would say, selling and making offers, and then follow-ups are probably like the two biggest places in the sales process that I see people's brains just want to trip up. And I think these are both places the people pleasing can come up, right? Owning your work, making that offer, right? What's the people pleasing noise that can come up? They're like, I don't want to be pushy. I don't want to be icky. How can I seem really nice? How can I offer this in a way that's really acceptable and no one's going to get upset with me, right? I think it can show up on that front end, and then definitely in the follow-ups, definitely in leaning into those sales objections. I think there's so many areas there, but that follow-up piece can be key, where the people pleaser can want to come in, where it's how can I people please my way through this, as opposed to how can I start to hold boundaries around my prices, or how can I spend less time trying to people please and instead thinking through the lens of what is actual service in this situation. Service in this situation might be sitting with someone in the uncomfortable conversation around trying to make a decision. That might not be people pleasing or telling them what they want to hear, but it might be the nicest and most of service thing I could do. Same thing with the follow-ups, right? Instead of thinking I'm so worried about people pleasing, how can I come through that lens to make sure I'm saying the thing I think they want to hear from me, as opposed to what's the thing I really need to speak to in this follow-up to help move this conversation forward, to really help someone make their next decision. Okay, you get what I'm saying. I'm just on a soapbox around this. Do I have anything else here? Okay, I have one last thing, because then I did want to leave you with just a few tools you can play with. The last thing I will say, a couple other things here I'll say, just in terms of where the people-pleasing overgiving can show up. I think for those of you who work directly with clients, whether you're a coach or a therapist, I think also on the done for you side, if let's say you are a designer or an OBM, you're having those conversations with people, I think if you have the people pleasing pattern, this is not to make you wrong, let's create awareness around this, but in terms of that money leak and in terms of seeing how that can affect your business and your results for all the reasons we were talking about earlier, I think just also noticing how that shows up in your day-to-day client interactions. So not just when you're charging and receiving payment, not just with the scope creep and the actual work, but also noticing with your actual conversations. So I'll use myself, it's just easier for me to use myself as an example here, but I think about this in coaching all the time, right? It would be very easy for me to think, how can I just please my clients and tell them the things they want to hear in a coaching conversation, right? And really come through this lens of almost being that shapeshifter in a coaching conversation, just be the yes person and say what they want to hear. Or to come from this, how can I over deliver and almost take on their results for them? And that's all kind of a part of the same mindset we're speaking to, and kind of the pieces that are underneath it, versus coming from the lens of wait a second, if I'm removing people pleasing from my business, if I start to create safety here, if I start to look at how can I please me first and see that that's not really my job here. My job is not to be a people pleaser in my business or for my clients, right? And really, my job is not to nice all over people. Probably the nicest thing for me to do is actually just show up and be really honest and open and in this conversation and hold a client to their stuff, right? We're going to get very different results. That's going to affect my business very differently. It's also going to affect me energetically very differently. And I think this is just a place where it can be very sneaky, because when you're people pleasing, oftentimes you're going to get a positive response, right? If I people please my clients in the moment, they're probably going to be super happy, but long term, that's going to also affect, if I'm not speaking to the things I need to, it's also going to affect their results, which literally in my business, since I have a revenue share model, is going to affect my income and my money. But we can just see how that's going to affect everything in both of our businesses. Versus if I'm not coming from that people-pleasing scope or lens or mindset, if I've created more safety, more intrinsic worth, and just see, I don't have to bring that into a coaching call. I know my job isn't to please my clients. I mean, my job is to serve my clients, but not to please my clients. And I think those are two very, very different things, right? The best way I can be of service for my client is to see sometimes my job is not to please them. Sometimes my job is to be the pain in their butt, or say the thing they don't want to hear, or be the truth speaker, or hold them in their discomfort, or hold that boundary, whatever that thing is. Like, that's really my job. That is how I can serve them best. That is how I can be of service. And so what I would just notice here is, if you're finding people pleasing might be a thing for you, and it might be something that's affecting or creating that money leak in your business, I think just noticing how this can show up in those client relationships as well. And what I think can be an easy, or just a shift you can play with, is look, how can I try to get out of pleasing and into service, and see those as two very different things. I have so many I have this list. I was just listing all the places this shows up, but I want to shift to some of our tools. But as you're listening to this on the replay, or now if anybody wants to share, I think also just seeing for you what comes up. Do you have any insights of oh, this is a place this shows up. This is a place this can create a money leak or a leak in my business, because I think it's just, again, really helpful for people to have this normalized, but also just to see, once we have awareness around something, it's so much easier to stop and then to change, to delete, to rearrange. So feel free to share those, just so we can have that conversation and create some, again, normalization, but also help create awareness for one another. But let's talk about how to shift this. So if we're noticing, okay, people pleasing, over delivering, over giving, this might be a really big money leak for me in my business. Okay, I've got the awareness here. I'm seeing these are the places this shows up. How do I start to shift this? I think first and foremost, I always say this, but awareness is the biggest thing. Just having this awareness, you're going to start to notice, oh, I don't follow up on those invoices. That's actually an easy action. I can move through some of the discomfort here. I can see where this is coming from, but actually probably what I need to do is stop trying to solve this in my business, whatever's coming up for me, follow up on those invoices, right? I think we can start to have that awareness and to see the simple practical actions to take. And I think then we also see this then becomes some of the mindset work to do, because oftentimes the practical, that awareness, you're going to see where it's easy once you have that awareness for the practical action steps you can take. If it feels easy, have at it, run at it, take those action steps. If you start to notice, oh, this is a place I want to hold a boundary. Oh, this is a place I want to pull back and not over deliver or people please. Oh, this is a place I want to make a shift in terms of how I'm showing up so I can serve instead of please. And I am having all of the internal gunk come up. I think what's helpful to see is great, now you have awareness on the mindset work to do. And this is probably then evidence that this is a big money leak in your business, and that's not a bad thing, because now you know exactly the leak to plug and exactly the work to do. So I think just seeing this gets to be that place, and then we get to look at, and this is a place to do some self-coaching, where's some of that people pleasing coming from? Is it more that sense where it's I want that love and that acceptance? Then maybe some of your work is, how can I give that to myself, instead of trying to people please as a way to fit in, or as a way to feel love, or as a way to feel accepted. Maybe that means I need to give that to myself first. What are my opportunities to love myself a little bit more, to people please myself a little bit more, right? To give this to myself a little bit more. If it's coming from a place of, I do this because I kind of feel like maybe I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy enough, or my offer is not good enough, or I'm worried clients are going to go away because I feel like they're going to if I don't overgive and if I actually hold these boundaries, they're going to find out this just isn't actually that great an offer. Great, then you have the awareness of the mindset work to do there. Is not go fix your offer and over deliver. It's probably going to dig in to do the mindset work around, how do you really get on board with feeling worthy, feeling good enough, getting sold on your offer, right? That's the place we want to focus. And then I'm super dry, y'all. And then also we were talking about if people pleasing, if that over delivering, if those lack of boundaries, if that's more coming from a place of, because this is how I create safety, right? It feels really unsafe. I feel if I can just get that approval from others, if I don't ruffle feathers, I am safe. Then I feel clients won't go away. That's where you create a sense of safety. Great. I think then just seeing oh, now you have awareness around this becomes the mindset work to do. It's not then, how do I try to fix things with my clients or create the offer that I'm never going to have to follow up on a payment around, or how do I keep hiring on team members so I can just over deliver so that no one ever goes away, right? It's more, how do I start to create safety with myself? Even if someone is displeased, how can I create safety start to create safety within myself, within my business? There's two pieces that could be fun to play with there. I think noticing, and one of the things I'll challenge clients around with is like unwinding this and see what happens if you didn't people please. Like if the fear is you're gonna ruffle someone's feathers and they're gonna be mad at you or they're not gonna like you, right? Super normal, common, I think, fear to have. I have this come up too, right? Then play that out and play with, can you process, can you digest, can you metabolize this in advance? And see like, what are all those yucky feelings that come up? Let yourself sit with those in advance and also play with, how would you handle that? Would you actually be okay? Could you manage that? Because I think what happens so often when we have the people pleasing coming from a place of or lack of safety, I think so often what we try to do is figure out how to either tell ourselves that fear is not true, which your brain is just going to keep trying to find evidence that it is true. We try to like argue and wrestle with it, or try to figure out how to avoid it. And I think what can be more powerful here is to look at how can we actually run headfirst into it and see you would be okay anyway. You can handle it anyway. If you're people pleasing as a way to avoid conflict, as a way to avoid a client being pissed off at you, not to necessarily go out and create conflict or actually have a client get mad at you, but to mentally go through, if that happened, what are all the feelings that come up? Process them. What are all the things you're worried are going to happen? Process that. Come up with a solution for that. Work through that in advance, because the more you can do that in advance, the more you can see, oh, I would actually be able to handle this. I am actually safe. And you can start to create that safety within yourself, because that's the only reason you're probably people pleasing, is that's just the mechanism your brain knows to create safety through in your business. The other piece to play with here in terms of safety in business, I think, is also just starting to see like where are all the places you don't like feel safe in your business, and what would it look like to be safe in your business, and how can you start to live into that now, particularly with things like people pleasing, and with when the people pleasing is coming from a place of like, I'm worried that this client's going to go away. I'm worried I'm going to lose a client. I'm worried that I'll never book another client again. Like when it's coming from that place, I think one of the places to play with is starting to cultivate the belief that, not that you don't want to serve your clients well. I mean, I love my clients. Like I hope they stay for as long as they would like to work with me, and that I serve them really well. And I always want to encourage them to feel welcome to stay long-term. And I genuinely have a belief that when a client is complete, when they're done, or if it's not a fit, and we're not going to work together anymore, whatever that might be, I know that there's always more clients, and I know I trust my ability, and I know I trust my marketing strategy, my sales process. I trust everything there. There's enough safety in my business that I know I can always book in another client. Sort of like if you were people pleasing in your romantic relationship because you were so worried you didn't want your partner to leave you and to go away, if you can start to create safety where it's like, well, that would suck. Like, I want this relationship to work, but if my partner went away, I know that I could date someone else. Like, there would be someone else. You can start to create a lot more safety in yourself. And that's what I want to invite you to play with. If people pleasing is coming from that safety place, kind of see what's going on there and see, like, how can I start to cultivate this belief that even if that happened, I would be safe anyway, and start to create that belief system in your business that your money, your business, is not tied to one person approving of you, liking you, paying you. Of course, you want to show up and do a good job. You want to serve, not please, right? And serving is pleasing, but we want to come from that service versus pleasing lens. And if you hold a boundary, if someone is unhappy, if someone is disappointed, if someone doesn't get the result they want, if fill in the blank, whatever the worry is, that you can handle and navigate that, and you can always book in another client because you trust your business enough to generate those marketing and sales, or those sales and leads for you, and that money for you. Because when you can do that mindset work there and create that internal worth, right? That people pleasing for yourself, that safety for yourself, those are the pieces that make you feel more unstoppable in business, because then it feels safe to show up and serve instead of please. And then it feels safe to show up and start to hold those boundaries that are so important, because if you're bleeding through your boundaries everywhere in your business, right? Like that just becomes another money leak. And that's sort of like where we're just like lighting money on fire all over our business. When you can start to rein that back in, serve instead of please, and set those healthy boundaries and really hold to them, that's when you can have that healthy energy exchange. It can feel a lot better to receive money, to make money. It can feel safer to keep making money in your business as well. Okay, I hope that this was valuable. I hope this was helpful. Definitely let me know as you're listening through this if you have questions, if you have ahas, if you have anything popping up you want to share. If you want to share anything to normalize with the group, please feel free to do that in the comments. A reminder, if you do leave a comment, say hi, leave an emoji. We will pick that winner for the self-study course, Get Unstuck and Unlock Your Success. And we will pick that on Thursday, so just check your DMs for that. And then that final reminder, if you want to go through more of these mindset pieces, but also through the clarity of the strategy and action of what goes into making more money, right? Like shifting those money leaks to making too much money, too much noise, too much impact on your terms. We've got that 5-day free podcast series on my podcast, One Question, Unapologetic Questions for Unapologetic Results. And just like the title says, we're going through 5 of those unapologetic questions over the 5 days. If you sign up, you'll get instant access, and you'll get instant access to the playbook with the journaling prompts, and there are some affirmations in there for you as well. So I'll make sure we drop that all in the links, and then I will be back next week with another topic for you, and we'll dive in then. Bye, y'all.